When a billionaire stands on stage and publicly discards his wife in front of 300 guests for a younger woman, he thinks he's won. But 4 years later, the abandoned woman returns, not to beg, but to bury alive everything he's ever built. And the man standing beside her? A man even senators fear. Follow the story to the very end. Like and comment where you're watching from, so I know how far this story has come. The chandeliers inside the Ashbourne Grand Hotel burned like small suns suspended from a vaulted ceiling that cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. 300 bodies in custom-tailored fabric packed the ballroom shoulder to shoulder, champagne flutes raised, laughter echoing off marble walls. The air smelled like money, expensive perfume layered over imported cigars and the faint metallic tang of ambition. At the center of the stage stood Graham Whitmore, 52 years old, 6 feet tall in Italian leather shoes, salt and pepper hair slicked back like a man who had never known doubt. His tuxedo fit him the way power fit men who believed they had earned it. He held the microphone loosely, casually, like he was born gripping one. The crowd loved him. They always did. Graham Whitmore had built an empire from nothing. Whitmore Global started in a rented garage 30 years ago and now owned shipping routes, construction firms, luxury hotel chains, and half the commercial real estate in 3 major cities. Forbes had called him the architect of modern ambition. Time magazine put his face on a cover with the headline, "The Man Who Never Loses." Tonight was supposed to be a celebration, their anniversary gala, 22 years of marriage, a charity event doubling as a public display of success, stability, and the kind of love that made good press. Beside the stage, standing just outside the spotlight, was Celeste Whitmore. She wore silver, a gown Graham had picked out himself 2 weeks earlier, holding it up in their walk-in closet, while she nodded and smiled because that was what she did. The dress fit her perfectly. It always did. She had learned years ago to keep her figure exactly the way Graham preferred. Elegant, controlled, never too much. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight chignon. Her makeup was flawless. She stood with her hands clasped in front of her, posture straight, smile soft. She looked like a woman who had mastered the art of being exactly what someone else needed. Graham finished his speech about resilience and gratitude and the importance of giving back. The crowd clapped, cameras flashed, a reporter near the front scribbled notes on a tablet. Then Graham smiled wider. "Before we wrap up tonight," he said, voice smooth as polished glass, "I want to share something personal." Celeste's stomach tightened. She didn't know why. Not yet. But her body knew before her mind did, some primal instinct that recognized danger in the shift of his tone, the way his eyes avoided hers. Graham gestured toward the far side of the stage. "Many of you know Selena Vale, my chief operating officer and one of the brightest minds I've ever had the privilege of working with." Selena stepped into the light. 29 years old, blonde, sharp-featured, wearing a black dress that clung to her like ambition wrapped in silk. She moved across the stage with the confidence of someone who had been promised something and believed it. Celeste's chest went cold. Graham reached out, and Selena took his hand. The room shifted. A subtle change in energy. The kind of tension that made people lean forward slightly, instinctively sensing blood in the water. "Selena and I," Graham continued, his voice steady, calm, "have been working closely for the past 2 years. Very closely." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Celeste's hands went numb. Graham looked directly at her for the first time in 5 minutes. "Celeste," he said, still smiling, still holding Selena's hand, "has been an incredible partner, but we've grown in different directions, and I think it's time we both stop pretending otherwise." The words landed like stones. Celeste didn't move. Couldn't move. Her brain screamed at her to react, to do something, but her body had locked in place like a machine with its wires cut. "So tonight," Graham said, voice rising slightly, playing to the crowd now, "I want to publicly acknowledge what everyone close to us already knows. My marriage to Celeste is over. And Selena," he squeezed her hand, "is not just the future of this company, she's my future." The ballroom exploded, not with applause, with shock. Whispers erupted like wildfire. Cameras swung toward Celeste. Reporters stood up. Someone near the back gasped loud enough to be heard over the chaos. Celeste stood frozen under the lights, silver dress gleaming, face pale, hands still clasped in front of her like she was praying. She wasn't praying. She was drowning. Graham handed the microphone to Selena, who accepted it with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Then he walked off the stage, moving toward the VIP section where his closest advisors sat, leaving Celeste standing alone beside the podium like furniture someone forgot to remove. That was when something inside her cracked. Not loudly, not violently, just a clean, quiet fracture somewhere deep in her chest where hope used to live. She walked toward the microphone. Her legs moved on autopilot. She wasn't thinking anymore. Thinking required a functional brain, and hers had shattered into 1,000 pieces the moment her husband announced her disposal in front of 300 people and a dozen cameras. She picked up the microphone. The room went silent. Every eye locked on her, predators sensing fresh prey, vultures circling something dying in the road. Celeste looked at Graham across the ballroom. He was laughing, shaking hands with someone in a navy suit, acting like nothing had happened, like she didn't exist. She spoke. "Thank you, Graham." Her voice came out steady, clear, stronger than it had any right to be. The room held its breath. "Thank you," she repeated, "for finally showing everyone who you really are." Graham's smile faltered. Celeste set the microphone down gently, turned, and walked straight toward the exit. No running, no crying, no screaming. Just one foot in front of the other, silver heels clicking against marble, while 300 people watched in stunned silence. A security guard opened the door for her. She walked through it. Outside, the night air hit her like cold water. The valet stand was empty except for one young man in a red vest who looked up from his phone, startled. "Mrs. Whitmore, my car," she said. "Yes, ma'am. Right away." He ran toward the garage. Celeste stood on the curb, arms wrapped around herself, shaking. Not from cold, from rage, from humiliation, from the sudden nauseating realization that the life she had spent 22 years building had just been incinerated in under 3 minutes. Her black Mercedes pulled up. She got in. The valet hovered near the window. "Are you okay, ma'am? Do you need—" "I'm fine." She wasn't fine. She drove. No destination. No plan. Just movement. The city blurred past her windows, glowing storefronts, streetlights, people laughing on sidewalks who had no idea the world had just ended. Her phone buzzed. Text messages flooded in. Friends, family, reporters. 30 missed calls in 5 minutes. She threw the phone into the passenger seat and kept driving. By the time she reached their penthouse, the sky was turning gray. Dawn creeping over the skyline like an uninvited guest. Celeste walked through the front door, kicked off her heels, and stood in the middle of the living room. Everything was exactly as she had left it. Fresh flowers on the table, throw pillows arranged symmetrically on the couch, Graham's reading glasses folded neatly on the side table, a life she had curated, maintained, perfected. For nothing. She walked into the bedroom, pulled a suitcase from the closet, and started packing. Not everything, just enough. 3 outfits. Underwear. Toiletries. A framed photo of her mother. 15 minutes later, she was standing in the elevator with one suitcase and no plan beyond leave. The doorman looked startled when she walked past him. "Mrs. Whitmore, is everything—" "Don't call me that anymore." She stepped onto the street. No car this time, no destination. Just a woman in yesterday's gown carrying one suitcase into a city that didn't care if she lived or died. Well, 3 months later, Celeste Whitmore no longer existed. Not officially. Not anywhere that mattered. She had disappeared into the cracks between cities, small coastal towns where nobody cared about billionaires or broken marriages. She changed her name, cut her hair short in a gas station bathroom with kitchen scissors, bought clothes from thrift stores. She rented a 1-bedroom apartment above a laundromat in a town called Harborview. Population, 4,000. The kind of place people moved to when they were running from something. The apartment was small. Walls painted beige 20 years ago and never updated. A kitchenette with a 2-burner stove and a bathroom with a showerhead that dripped constantly. It was perfect, because nobody looked for Celeste Whitmore in a place like this. She got a job as a bookkeeper for a shipping company that operated out of a warehouse near the docks. The owner was a gruff man in his 60s named Eddie, who asked no questions when she showed up with a fake resume and a social security number she had bought off someone in a bar. "You good with numbers?" Eddie asked. "Yes." "You show up on time?" "Yes." "Then you're hired." That was it. No background check, no references, just work. Celeste spent her days in a cramped office staring at spreadsheets, reconciling invoices, tracking shipments. She ate lunch alone at her desk, peanut butter sandwiches she made in her apartment every morning. She walked home along the docks every evening, listening to seagulls and cargo ships groaning in the distance. At night, she sat in her apartment with instant noodles and cheap wine, staring at the wall. She didn't cry. Not anymore. Crying required feeling something, and Celeste had gone numb. But numbness didn't last forever. Slowly, quietly, something else began to take its place. Calculation. She started thinking. Graham had destroyed her publicly because he believed she was weak, replaceable. He had frozen her bank accounts, stripped her name from the company, erased her from every board, every contract, every investment. He thought she would disappear quietly, but in doing so, he had made a mistake. He had underestimated her memory. For 22 years, Celeste had stood beside Graham at every meeting, every negotiation, every deal. She had smiled politely while men in expensive suits talked numbers, assuming she wasn't listening. But she had been. She remembered everything. Every offshore account, every shell corporation, every falsified valuation Graham had used to inflate Whitmore Global's worth, every investor he had lied to, every contract built on inflated projections. She knew where the bodies were buried, and she started writing them down. Late at night, after work, Celeste sat at her kitchen table with a yellow notebook and reconstructed Graham's empire from memory. She drew charts, traced money flows, connected entities that weren't supposed to be connected. It took months, but eventually she had it. A map, a blueprint of every lie Graham Whitmore had ever told. She didn't know what she was going to do with it, not yet, but she kept the notebook hidden under her mattress, and every time she opened it, she felt something cold and sharp growing inside her chest. Not revenge? Not yet. Just clarity. 18 months after disappearing, Celeste made a mistake. She got sloppy. Eddie's shipping company had been running smoothly for years, but Celeste noticed something wrong in the books. Small discrepancies. Money disappearing in increments too precise to be accidental. Someone was stealing. She tracked it for 2 weeks, following the thread through invoices, payments, deposits. Eventually, she found the source. Eddie's logistics manager, a man named Frank who had been quietly siphoning funds for over a year. Celeste confronted Eddie in his office. "Frank's stealing from you," she said, sliding a folder across his desk. Eddie looked at the numbers. His face went red. "How much?" "140,000 over 14 months. Eddie's jaw tightened. "You sure?" "I'm sure." He stared at the folder for a long time. Then he looked up at her. "Who taught you to track money like this?" Celeste hesitated. "Someone who shouldn't have," she said. Eddie didn't press, but word spread. In small towns, news traveled fast. Within a week, 3 other business owners approached Celeste, asking if she could look at their books. She said yes. She found theft in 2 of them, structural inefficiencies in the 3rd. By the end of the year, Celeste had built a quiet reputation among the kinds of people who operated businesses that lived in gray areas. Shipping companies, import-export firms, security contractors. That was how Lucien Moretti found her. Lucien walked into Eddie's warehouse on a cold Tuesday in November, wearing a black overcoat and boots that looked like they cost more than Eddie's truck. Celeste was in the office, reconciling a shipment manifest, when Eddie knocked on the door. "Someone here to see you," he said. His voice was tight, nervous. Celeste looked up. The man standing in the doorway didn't smile, didn't extend his hand, just stood there, watching her with eyes that looked like they had seen too much and remembered all of it. "You're the one who found the theft in Marco's trucking operation," Lucien said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Celeste replied. "How?" "I looked at the numbers." Marco had 3 auditors look at those numbers. They found nothing. Celeste shrugged. They weren't looking hard enough. Lucien studied her for a moment, then he pulled a chair over and sat down across from her. "I have a problem," he said. "Someone inside my organization is moving money. Not much. Just enough to notice if you're paying attention." "And you're paying attention," Celeste said. "Always." "Why come to me?" "Because the people I hire to find problems like this keep telling me there is no problem, which means either they're incompetent or they're part of it. Celeste leaned back in her chair. What makes you think I'm not part of it? Lucian's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Because you don't know me. Fair point. I'll need access to everything, Celeste said. Payroll, vendor contracts, wire transfers, everything. You'll have it. And if I find something you don't like, then I deal with it. The way he said deal with it made the temperature in the room drop 5 degrees. Celeste met his eyes. I want cash. Half up front. No receipts. Done. Lucian stood, pulled an envelope from his coat, and placed it on her desk. 2 weeks, he said. Find it or don't. Either way, you get paid. Then he walked out. Celeste opened the envelope. $20,000 in hundreds. She stared at it for a long time. Then she got to work. Old. It took her 9 days. The theft was sophisticated. Whoever had designed it knew exactly how to hide money inside legitimate transactions, padding invoices, duplicating payments, routing funds through layered accounts. But they had made one mistake. They got greedy. Celeste found the pattern buried in shipping manifests, containers that didn't exist attached to invoices that were slightly too consistent. She traced the payments backward through 3 shell companies until she found the source, a man named Vincent Calloway, Lucien's director of logistics. When she called Lucian with the name, he didn't react, just said, I'll handle it. 3 days later, Vincent Calloway resigned abruptly and left the state. Nobody saw him again. Celeste didn't ask. A week after that, Lucian showed up at her apartment. She opened the door, surprised. He stood in the hallway holding a bottle of wine. You earned this, he said. She let him in. They sat at her tiny kitchen table, drinking wine out of mismatched mugs because Celeste didn't own wine glasses. You're good at this, Lucian said. I've had practice. Doing what? Watching men lie. Lucian didn't ask her to elaborate. They talked until midnight, not about work, about small things, books, cities, the way people built walls around themselves and called it survival. When Lucien left, he paused at the door. I could use someone like you, he said. Doing what? Keeping me honest? Celeste almost laughed, but Lucien wasn't joking. Think about it, he said. Then he was gone. Celeste sat alone in her apartment, staring at the closed door, and for the first time in 2 years, she felt something other than numb. 3 months later, Celeste moved into a house overlooking the coast that Lucian owned but never used. Not because they were together. Not yet. Because Lucian had hired her officially, and the job required proximity. She became his financial auditor, his strategist, the person who looked at deals before he signed them and told him what nobody else would when he was being lied to. Lucien's empire was vast. Shipping, security, real estate, some of it legitimate, some of it gray, some of it black as coal. But Lucien was honest about what he was. He never pretended to be innocent. He never lied to her. And slowly, carefully, something shifted between them. Late nights reviewing contracts became guarded conversations. Guarded conversations became trust. Trust became something neither of them had names for yet, but both recognized. Lucien had been married once, badly. His ex-wife had tried to destroy him during the divorce, leaking information to federal investigators that nearly brought down half his organization. He didn't trust easily after that, but he trusted Celeste. And Celeste, who had spent 22 years married to a man who smiled while dismantling her, found herself trusting someone for the first time in her life. One night, sitting on the porch watching waves crash against rocks below the cliffs, Lucien asked her the question she had been waiting for. Who were you before this? Celeste didn't answer right away. She sipped her wine, watched the ocean, felt the weight of the truth pressing against her ribs. Someone who didn't exist, she said finally. Lucien didn't push. But 2 weeks later, late at night after too much whiskey, Celeste told him everything. Graham, the gala, the humiliation, the disappearance. Lucien listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said, Do you want him dead? Celeste's breath caught. No. You sure? Yes. Lucien nodded slowly. Then what do you want? Celeste looked at him. I want him to see me become impossible to destroy. Lucian's eyes darkened. Not with anger, with understanding. Then we'll make that happen. Oh, but first, Celeste had to face something she had been avoiding for 3 years. Her past. One night, alone in the house, she pulled the yellow notebook out from the bottom of her suitcase where it had been buried since she left the city. She opened it. Pages and pages of notes. Graham's empire mapped out in her handwriting. Every vulnerability. Every lie. She had written it all down thinking maybe, someday, she would use it. But she hadn't known how. Until now. She placed the notebook in front of Lucien the next morning. He read every page, twice. When he looked up, his expression was unreadable. "You're sure about this?" Celeste nodded. "If we do this," Lucien said carefully, "there's no going back. You understand that?" "I understand." "And you're not doing this for revenge?" "No." "Then why?" Celeste met his eyes. "Because I need to prove to myself that I'm not the woman he tried to bury." Lucien closed the notebook. "Then let's bury him instead." They started slowly. No explosions. No public scandals. No violence. Just pressure. Lucien had connections everywhere. Investors, bankers, suppliers, politicians. He began making quiet phone calls. Asking questions. Planting doubts. Meanwhile, Celeste worked in the shadows, using the information in her notebook to expose cracks in Graham's empire that nobody else knew existed. Anonymous tips sent to financial regulators. Journalists who suddenly received leaked documents. Investors who started asking uncomfortable questions during board meetings. Within 6 months, Whitmore Global was bleeding. Credit lines froze. Partnerships dissolved. Lawsuits resurfaced. Stock prices dropped. Graham scrambled to hold it together, but every time he plugged one hole, 2 more appeared. He didn't understand what was happening. Not yet. And Celeste watched it all from a distance, feeling nothing except cold satisfaction. Until the invitation arrived. It came in a cream-colored envelope with gold lettering. The Bellamy Foundation Gala. The same ballroom. The same hotel where Graham had destroyed her 4 years earlier. Celeste stared at the invitation for a long time. Then she looked at Lucien. "I want to go." Lucien's jaw tightened. "You sure?" "Yes." "He'll be there." "I know." Lucien watched her carefully. Then he nodded. "Then we go." Celeste smiled, not with warmth, with something sharp and cold and final. "Good," she said softly. Because it's time he saw what he lost. The dress arrived 3 days before the gala. Celeste found it hanging in her closet when she came home from a meeting with one of Lucien's attorneys. Blood-red silk. Backless. The kind of dress that didn't apologize for existing. A note was pinned to the hanger in Lucien's handwriting. "Wear this. Let him see what walking away looks like." Celeste ran her fingers over the fabric. It felt expensive, dangerous. She tried it on that night, standing in front of the mirror in her bedroom. The woman staring back at her looked nothing like the person who had walked out of the Ashbourne Grand 4 years ago. Her hair was longer now, darker. Her body was leaner, not from dieting, but from the kind of weight loss that came from rebuilding yourself from scratch. Her eyes were harder, colder. She barely recognized herself. And she liked it. Lucien knocked on the door frame. "You look ready," he said. Celeste turned. "For what?" "War." She smiled. "Good." Lucien stepped into the room. He moved like a man who had spent his entire life calculating risks and had long ago stopped fearing the consequences. "You don't have to do this," he said quietly. "Yes, I do." "Why?" Celeste looked back at the mirror. "Because if I don't, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering if I was strong enough." Lucien nodded. He understood. He had spent years proving the same thing to himself. "Then we finish it," he said. "Together." The night of the gala, Celeste stood in front of the mirror again, this time fully dressed. Red silk clung to her body like armor. Her hair was pulled back, sleek and severe. Diamond earrings, gifts from Lucien, caught the light every time she moved. She looked like money, power, revenge wrapped in elegance. Downstairs, Lucien waited in the foyer wearing an all-black suit, no tie, the top button of his shirt undone. He looked like a man who could buy the building or burn it down, depending on his mood. When Celeste descended the stairs, he didn't smile, just watched her with the kind of intensity that made her feel like the only person in the world. "You ready?" he asked. "No." "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." Outside, a black armored sedan idled at the curb. The driver, a man named Anton who had worked for Lucien for 15 years, opened the door without a word. Celeste slid into the back seat. Lucien followed. The door closed. Silence. The city blurred past the tinted windows. Streetlights. Pedestrians. A world that had no idea what was about to happen. Celeste's hands trembled slightly in her lap. Lucien noticed. He reached over and took her hand. His grip was warm, solid. "You don't owe him anything," Lucien said. "Not explanations, not forgiveness, nothing." Celeste squeezed his hand. "I know." "Then why are you nervous?" She didn't answer right away. Because the truth was complicated. She wasn't nervous about facing Graham. She was nervous about facing the woman she used to be. The version of herself that had stood beside Graham for 22 years, smiling on command, shrinking when necessary, erasing herself piece by piece until nothing remained. She was terrified that seeing Graham again would pull that woman back to the surface. "I'm not afraid of him," Celeste said finally. "I'm afraid I'll remember what it felt like to be afraid." Lucien's jaw tightened. "Then don't remember," he said. "Be who you are now, not who you were." Celeste nodded, but it wasn't that simple. Memory had teeth, and Graham Whitmore had spent 2 decades training her to flinch. But the Ashbourne Grand Hotel looked exactly the same. Same golden facade. Same marble steps leading to glass doors flanked by men in uniforms. Same red carpet rolled out for people who believed their wealth made them important. Anton pulled up to the curb. Celeste's heart hammered against her ribs. The door opened. Cameras flashed immediately. Someone shouted her name. "Celeste! Celeste Whitmore!" She stepped out into a wall of noise. Reporters lined the red carpet behind velvet ropes, screaming questions, shoving microphones toward her like weapons. "Is it true you're back? Where have you been? Are you here to confront Graham Whitmore?" Celeste ignored them. Lucien stepped out behind her, and the noise doubled. Because everyone recognized him. Lucien Moretti didn't attend public events. He didn't do interviews. He existed in rumors and whispered conversations between men who understood power. Seeing him here beside Celeste was a statement, a declaration. Lucien placed his hand on the small of her back, not possessive, just present, and they walked up the steps together. Inside, the ballroom was exactly as Celeste remembered. Golden chandeliers, marble floors polished to a mirror shine, 300 people in designer fabric holding champagne flutes and pretending their conversations mattered. The air smelled like expensive perfume and buried sins. Celeste's stomach twisted, but she kept walking. Heads turned, conversation stopped mid-sentence. Someone gasped. A woman in a green gown grabbed her husband's arm and whispered something that made his eyes go wide. Celeste felt every stare like a physical touch, but she didn't flinch. Lucien guided her toward the back of the ballroom, away from the stage, where they could observe without being surrounded. A waiter appeared with champagne. Lucien took 2 glasses and handed one to Celeste. She didn't drink, just held it. "He's here," Lucien said quietly. Celeste followed his gaze. Graham stood near the front of the room, surrounded by a cluster of men in dark suits. He was laughing, gesturing with his hands, playing the role of the man who had everything under control. But Celeste could see the cracks. His tuxedo didn't fit quite right, too loose in the shoulders, like he had lost weight. His hair was grayer than she remembered. His smile looked strained. He looked tired, desperate, good. Beside him stood Selina Vale. She wore emerald green. Her blonde hair was styled in waves that probably cost $1,000. She clung to Graham's arm like a woman trying to convince herself she had won something valuable. Celeste felt nothing looking at her. No jealousy, no anger, just pity. Because Selina had no idea what she had signed up for. "You want to leave?" Lucien asked. "No." "You sure?" "Yes." Celeste took a sip of champagne. It tasted like metal. Across the room, someone whispered something to Graham. He turned and saw her. His face went white. The glass in his hand slipped slightly. He caught it, but the champagne sloshed over the rim, staining his cuff. Selina noticed. "Graham, Are you? But Graham wasn't listening. He was staring at Celeste like he had seen a ghost. Celeste stared back. 4 years collapsed into 4 seconds. Then she smiled. Not warmly, just enough to let him know she saw him. Graham's mouth opened, closed, opened again. He said something to Selena, then started walking toward Celeste. Lucian shifted slightly, positioning himself between Graham and Celeste without making it obvious. But Celeste touched his arm. "It's fine," she said. "You sure?" "Yes." Lucian stepped back, but his eyes never left Graham. Graham crossed the ballroom like a man wading through deep water. People moved out of his way instinctively, sensing disaster. He stopped 5 feet from Celeste. Up close, he looked worse. Dark circles under his eyes, a tremor in his hands, the kind of exhaustion that came from months of holding together something that wanted to fall apart. "Celeste," he breathed. His voice cracked on her name. "Graham," she replied calmly. You're alive." "Disappointed?" No, I just..." He ran a hand through his hair. "Where have you been?" "Away." "For 4 years?" "Yes." Why didn't you call or send word? Everyone thought..." "Everyone thought what?" Celeste interrupted. "That I died? That I killed myself? That I crawled into a hole somewhere and disappeared because you humiliated me in front of 300 people? Graham flinched. That's exactly what happened," Celeste said. Her voice was quiet, lethal. "You stood on that stage and erased me, so I let you." Graham looked like he was going to be sick. Selena appeared at his elbow, her face tight with barely concealed panic. "Graham, who is..." She stopped. Recognition hit her like cold water. "Oh my God," Selena whispered. Celeste turned her gaze to the younger woman. "Hello, Selena." Selena's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Graham put a hand on her shoulder. "Selena, go back to the table. I need to..." "No!" Selena's voice was sharp, defensive. "I'm not going anywhere." Celeste almost laughed. Selena thought this was a fight she could win. Poor girl. "You should listen to him," Celeste said. "This doesn't concern you." "The hell it doesn't," Selena snapped. "You disappeared. You walked out. You don't get to just show up 4 years later and..." "And what?" Celeste's voice dropped lower, colder. "Remind him what he threw away?" Selena's jaw tightened. Graham looked between them, panicking. "Celeste, please. Can we talk? Somewhere private?" "No." "Please." "Why?" Celeste asked. "So you can explain, apologize? Tell me it wasn't personal?" It was," Celeste interrupted. "It was deeply, brutally personal. You didn't just leave me, Graham. You destroyed me publicly because you wanted everyone to know I didn't matter." "That's not true." "Then why did you do it on a stage?" Silence. Graham's mouth worked, but no words came out, because there was no answer, not one that didn't make him a monster. Lucian stepped forward, not threateningly, just enough to remind everyone he was there. Graham's eyes shifted to him, and something changed in his expression. Fear. Real fear. "Lucien Moretti," Graham said quietly. Lucien didn't respond. Graham swallowed hard. You're with her?" "Yes." That one word landed like a hammer. Graham looked at Celeste, and for the first time she saw genuine heartbreak in his eyes. Not because he still loved her, but because he finally understood what he had lost. "How long?" Graham asked. "Does it matter?" Celeste replied. "Yes." "Why?" "Because I need to know if..." He stopped, shook his head. "Never mind." "Say it," Celeste pressed. "I need to know if you left me for him." Celeste laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound that made people nearby turn and stare. "You think I left you?" she said. "Graham, you threw me away, on a stage, in front of everyone we knew. You held another woman's hand and told the world I didn't matter. I made a mistake. You made a choice. I was wrong. Yes, you were." Graham's eyes filled with tears. "Sorry," he whispered. Celeste felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, just cold clarity. You're not sorry you hurt me, she said. You're sorry you're losing everything. Graham's face crumpled. Selena grabbed his arm. Graham, let's go. She's not worth this. But Graham didn't move. He just stared at Celeste like a man watching his entire life collapse in real time. Everything that's happening to you, Celeste said quietly. Every investor pulling out, every loan getting called, every partner walking away. That's not bad luck, Graham. That's consequences. Graham's breath hitched. You? Celeste didn't confirm, didn't deny, just smiled. And that was answer enough. Graham staggered back a step. Why? He choked out. Why would... Because you taught me something important, Celeste said. You taught me that loyalty is a weakness, that trust is a liability, that the only person you can count on is yourself. She stepped closer. So I became everything you made me. Graham looked like he was drowning. Selena tried to pull him away, but he shook her off. Celeste, please, if you ever loved me... I did love you, Celeste interrupted. For 22 years I loved you. I built my entire life around you, and you repaid me by humiliating me in front of the world. I know, and I'm sorry, but please, But nothing, Celeste said. You wanted me gone. So I'm gone. You just don't get to decide when I come back. She turned to Lucien. We're done here. Lucien nodded. They started walking toward the exit. Behind them, Graham called out, Celeste, wait! She didn't. Graham pushed through the crowd, desperation making him reckless. Celeste, please, just tell me what you want. Money? The company? Tell me what it takes to stop this. Celeste stopped. She turned slowly. The entire ballroom had gone silent. 300 people watching a man beg the woman he destroyed. I don't want anything from you, Graham, Celeste said. I just want you to understand something. What? You thought throwing me away would make you look powerful, but all it did was show everyone that you're the kind of man who destroys loyalty when it becomes inconvenient. She took a breath. And men like that don't build empires, Graham. They inherit them. And when the foundation cracks, everything falls. Graham's knees buckled slightly. Selena caught him. Celeste turned and walked out. Lucien followed. Behind them, the ballroom erupted into chaos. Outside, the night air was cold and sharp. Celeste stood on the steps, breathing hard, adrenaline flooding her system. Lucien stood beside her, silent. Anton pulled the car up. They got in. The door closed. Silence. Celeste stared out the window, watching the hotel disappear behind them. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, from release. 4 years of rage, humiliation, and grief had just poured out of her in one brutal confrontation, and now she felt hollow. Empty. Free. Lucien reached over and took her hand. You okay? Celeste nodded, but she wasn't sure if that was true. They drove for an hour in silence. Celeste didn't ask where they were going. She didn't care. Eventually, Anton pulled up outside a private airfield on the outskirts of the city. A jet waited on the tarmac, engines already running. Where are we going? Celeste asked. Somewhere you can breathe, Lucien said. They boarded the plane. It was small, luxurious. The kind of private jet that didn't file flight plans with commercial air traffic. Celeste sank into a leather seat, exhausted. Lucien poured her a drink, whiskey, neat, and handed it to her. She drank. It burned. Good. You did well tonight, Lucien said. I lost control. No, you took it back. Celeste looked at him. He looked broken. He is broken. Good. But she didn't feel good. She felt tired. Lucien sat down across from her. You want to talk about it? No. You sure? Celeste drained the glass. I spent 4 years planning that moment, she said. And now that it's over, I don't feel anything. That's normal, is it? Yes. Celeste leaned back, closing her eyes. I thought I'd feel satisfied, vindicated, something. You will, Lucien said. Later. Right now, you're just numb. He was right, she was numb. But underneath the numbness, something else was stirring. Doubt. Because seeing Graham broken didn't feel like victory. It felt like watching something die that used to be alive. and Celeste wasn't sure if that made her strong or cruel. The plane took off. Celeste watched the city disappear beneath them, lights fading into darkness. Somewhere down there, Graham Whitmore was falling apart, and she had been the one to push him. They landed 3 hours later at a private estate on the coast. Lucien owned the property, but he rarely used it. Too remote, too quiet, perfect for disappearing. The house sat on a cliff overlooking the ocean, modern architecture, glass walls, the sound of waves crashing against rocks below. Inside, a fire was already burning in the fireplace. Someone had stocked the kitchen with fresh food. Lucien's people were efficient. Celeste walked through the house, exhausted, and found the bedroom overlooking the water. She kicked off her heels, stripped out of the red dress, and collapsed onto the bed in her underwear. She was asleep in seconds. What? When she woke, sunlight was pouring through the windows. She sat up, disoriented. The clock on the nightstand said 11:47 a.m. She had slept 14 hours. Celeste stood, wrapped herself in a robe hanging on the bathroom door, and walked out into the main room. Lucien was sitting on the couch, reading something on a tablet. He looked up when she entered. "Coffee?" he asked. "Please." He poured her a cup from a French press on the table. Celeste sat down beside him, curling her legs underneath her. They drank in silence for a long time. Finally, Lucien spoke. "You want to talk about last night?" "No." "Celeste, I don't want to talk about it." Lucien set down his cup. "Then what do you want?" Celeste looked at him, really looked at him. Lucien Moretti was not a good man. She knew that. He had built an empire on things that lived in shadows. He had made decisions that destroyed lives. He carried violence in his past like a scar that never fully healed. But he had never lied to her, never pretended to be something he wasn't. And that honesty, brutal, unflinching honesty, was more valuable than anything Graham had ever given her. "I want to know why you're helping me," Celeste said. Lucien's expression didn't change. "Because you deserve it." "That's not a reason. It's my reason." Celeste shook her head. "Nobody helps someone destroy their ex-husband out of kindness, Lucien. What do you get out of this?" Lucien was quiet for a long moment. Then he set down his tablet and leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "You want the truth?" he asked. "Always." "I'm helping you because I know what it's like to be erased," Lucien said, "to have someone look at you and decide you don't matter. And I know what it costs to rebuild yourself afterward." Celeste's chest tightened. "Who did that to you?" Lucien's jaw worked. "My father." He didn't elaborate, didn't need to. Celeste understood. She reached over and took his hand. They sat like that for a long time, two broken people holding on to each other because letting go felt impossible. Finally, Lucien spoke again. "There's something I need to tell you," he said. His voice was different now, heavier. Celeste's stomach dropped. "What?" Lucien pulled his hand away. He stood, walked to the window, and stared out at the ocean. "I've done things," he said quietly. "Bad things. Things I can't undo." "I know." "No, you don't." Celeste stood. "Then tell me." Lucien turned to face her. His expression was raw, unguarded. 6 years ago, he said, a woman who worked in one of my operations was murdered. She found out about something she wasn't supposed to know, and one of my men killed her to keep her quiet. Celeste's breath caught. "Did you order it?" "No." "But you knew." Lucien's silence was answer enough. "I didn't know beforehand," he said finally, "but I knew after, and I didn't do anything about it." "Why not?" "Because exposing it would have brought down half my organization, federal investigations, arrests, years of work destroyed." Celeste felt cold. "So you buried it?" "Yes." "And the man who killed her?" "Still works for me." Celeste stepped back. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you need to know who I am," Lucien said. "Really know, before this goes any further." "Further?" "Between us." Celeste's heart hammered. "You think I don't already know?" she said. "Lucien, I've spent 2 years working inside your organization. I've seen the books. I know where the money comes from. I'm not stupid." "I know you're not stupid," Lucien said, "but there's a difference between knowing something intellectually and facing it directly. He stepped closer. That woman's name was Emily Garrison. She was 26 years old. She had a mother who still doesn't know what really happened to her daughter. His voice cracked. And I let that happen because protecting my empire was more important than protecting her. Celeste stared at him. She should be horrified, disgusted. She should walk out right now and never look back. But instead she felt something else. Understanding. Because she had spent 4 years destroying Graham Whitmore, piece by piece, and she had never once asked herself if what she was doing was right. She had just done it because revenge felt justified, and maybe that made her just as dangerous as Lucien. "Why are you telling me this now?" Celeste asked. "Because if we're going to be together," Lucien said, "you need to decide if you can live with who I am, not who you want me to be, who I actually am." Celeste looked at him, really looked at him, at the man who had helped her rebuild herself, who had never lied, who carried his sins like stones and refused to pretend they didn't exist. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "Every day." "Would you do it again?" Lucien didn't answer right away, and that, more than anything, told her the truth. "I don't know," he said finally. Celeste nodded slowly. "At least you're honest." "Is that enough?" Celeste didn't know. She walked past him, out onto the deck overlooking the ocean. The wind whipped her hair. Waves crashed against rocks below. She thought about Emily Garrison, a woman she had never met, a woman who died because powerful men valued their empires more than her life. And she thought about Graham, about the empire she was systematically destroying, about the people losing their jobs because Whitmore Global was collapsing. Innocent people, people who had nothing to do with what Graham did to her. Was she any different than Lucien? Was revenge justice, or just cruelty dressed up in better clothes? Behind her, Lucien spoke. "I'll understand if you walk away." Celeste closed her eyes. She could walk away. Leave Lucien. Leave the revenge. Leave all of it behind and start over somewhere new, again. But she was tired of running, tired of rebuilding, tired of pretending she was someone she wasn't. She turned around. "I'm not walking away," she said. Lucien's expression shifted. Relief. Surprise. Something deeper. "Why not?" "Because I'm not better than you," Celeste said. "I've spent 4 years destroying a man who hurt me, and I've never once asked myself if the people suffering because of it deserve it." She stepped closer. "You carry your sins openly. At least that's honest." Lucien reached for her. She let him. They stood together on the deck, two damaged people choosing each other despite everything. Or maybe because of everything. "What do we do now?" Lucien asked. Celeste looked out at the ocean. "We finish what we started," she said. "And after?" "After?" Celeste said quietly. "We figure out how to live with what we've done." Lucien kissed her forehead. "Together?" "Together." Chad. They stayed at the estate for 3 days. No phones, no work, no plans, just time. On the third night, Celeste woke up screaming. A nightmare. Graham's face. The ballroom. The humiliation relived in surround sound. Lucien was beside her instantly, holding her, whispering that she was safe. But she wasn't safe. Not really. Because the person she had become terrified her more than anything Graham had ever done. She had turned cold, calculating, ruthless. Exactly like the men she hated. "I don't know who I am anymore," Celeste whispered. Lucien held her tighter. "You're someone who survived." "At what cost?" "Whatever it takes." Celeste pulled away, looking at him in the darkness. "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer I have." Celeste lay back down. Lucien stayed beside her, awake, watching over her until dawn. On the fourth day, they returned to the city. Reality crashed back immediately. Messages, emails, calls. Graham's empire was in freefall. 3 major investors had pulled out completely. The board was demanding his resignation. Lawsuits were piling up faster than his legal team could address them. Whitmore Global had weeks left, maybe days. Celeste sat in Lucien's office, staring at the reports. "This is it," Lucien said. "He's done." Celeste should have felt victorious. She didn't. She just felt empty. What happens to the employees? She asked. Lucien looked at her. What do you mean? The people who work for Whitmore Global, the ones who didn't do anything wrong. What happens to them when the company collapses? Lucien was quiet. They find other jobs. Do they? Celeste, do they? She pressed. Or do they lose everything because I wanted revenge? Lucien leaned back in his chair. You can't save everyone. I'm not trying to save everyone. I'm trying to figure out if I'm destroying people who don't deserve it. Graham deserves it. I know, but what about them? Lucien didn't have an answer. Neither did Celeste. She stood, grabbed her coat, and walked out. She drove to Whitmore Global headquarters. She didn't know why. Maybe because she needed to see it. The building looked the same. Gleaming glass, expensive lobby, security guards in crisp uniforms. But inside, chaos. Celeste walked through the lobby, head down, hoping nobody recognized her. They didn't. She took the elevator to the 14th floor, accounting, the department she used to oversee when she was still Mrs. Whitmore. The doors opened. The floor was half empty. Desks cleared out, boxes stacked in corners. People walking around with the hollow-eyed look of employees who knew the company was dying. Celeste's chest tightened. She walked through the floor, invisible, listening to fragments of conversations. Heard they're laying off another 100. Wife's pregnant. I can't lose this job. Should have left 6 months ago. Celeste stopped. A young woman sat at a desk, crying quietly into her hands. Celeste recognized her. Sarah, junior analyst, 24 years old, fresh out of college. She had hired Sarah 3 years before Graham destroyed her. Sarah looked up, startled. Mrs. Whitmore? Celeste froze. I'm sorry, Sarah said quickly, wiping her eyes. I didn't mean to, It's okay, Celeste said. Sarah laughed bitterly. No, it's not. Nothing's okay. The company's collapsing. Half the department got laid off yesterday. I'm probably next. Celeste felt sick. Do you have somewhere else to go? Sarah shook her head. I've been applying everywhere. Nobody's hiring. Celeste reached into her purse, pulled out a business card, one of Lucien's holding companies, and handed it to Sarah. Call this number tomorrow. Ask for Michael. Tell him I sent you. Sarah stared at the card. Why would you? Because you don't deserve to suffer for someone else's mistakes. Celeste turned and walked away before Sarah could respond. She left the building feeling worse than when she arrived. Because Sarah was just one person, there were hundreds more, and Celeste had helped destroy all of them. She sat in her car for 20 minutes, forehead pressed against the steering wheel, trying to breathe. Her phone buzzed. Lucien, where are you? She didn't respond. Another buzz. Celeste. Answer me. She turned off her phone, then she drove. No destination, just movement. Eventually, she ended up at the cemetery where her mother was buried. She hadn't been here in years. The grave was simple. A small stone with her mother's name and dates. Celeste sat down in the grass beside it. I don't know what I'm doing anymore, she said out loud. The wind rustled through the trees. No answer. Just silence. I wanted him to pay, Celeste continued. And he is. But so is everyone else, and I don't know how to stop it. Still nothing. Her mother had been a kind woman, patient, forgiving. She would have hated what Celeste had become. Celeste closed her eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered. For what? She wasn't sure. For becoming cruel. For choosing revenge over compassion. For turning into someone her mother wouldn't recognize. She sat there until the sun started setting. Then she stood, brushed grass off her pants, and walked back to her car. She turned her phone back on. 17 missed calls from Lucien. 4 voicemails. She didn't listen to them. Instead, she drove to Lucien's office. He was waiting when she walked in. Where the hell have you been? He demanded. Thinking. About what? Celeste sat down. I want to stop. Lucien went still. Stop what? This. All of it. I want to stop destroying Graham. Lucien stared at her. You're serious? Yes. Why? Because innocent people are suffering, and I can't... Her voice broke. I can't keep doing this. Lucien walked over to her. Celeste, we're almost done. One more push, and he's finished. I know. Then why stop now? Because finishing him means finishing everyone else, too. Lucian crouched in front of her, taking her hands. Listen to me, he said. Graham Whitmore destroyed you publicly. He humiliated you. He tried to erase you. And you fought back. That's not wrong. But hurting innocent people is. They're not your responsibility. Yes, they are. Lucien shook his head. You can't save them, Celeste. If you stop now, Graham survives. And everything we've done was for nothing. Then maybe it should be for nothing. Lucien stood, frustrated. This isn't you talking. This is guilt. Good. Maybe I should feel guilty. Why? Because I've become exactly what he is, Celeste shouted. I've turned ruthless and cold, and I don't care who gets hurt as long as I win. That's not strength, Lucien. That's just cruelty. Lucien's jaw tightened. So what do you want to do? Celeste took a shaky breath. I want to finish Graham, but I want to do it without destroying everyone else. How? I don't know. Lucien was quiet for a long moment. Then he sat down beside her. There might be a way, he said. What? We force Graham out, publicly. Make him resign. Then we install someone else to run the company, someone who can stabilize it. Celeste looked at him. Would that work? Maybe. If we move fast. And the employees? They keep their jobs. Celeste felt something loosen in her chest. Can you make that happen? Lucien nodded. But it means Graham walks away alive. Broken, but alive. Celeste thought about that. About Graham standing on that stage 4 years ago, destroying her. About the woman she had been. About the woman she had become. I can live with that, she said finally. Lucien kissed her forehead. Then we do it your way. They spent the next week orchestrating Graham's controlled collapse. Lucien used his connections to push the board into forcing Graham's resignation. Celeste used her knowledge of the company's finances to identify the departments that could be saved and the ones that needed to be shut down. It was brutal, efficient, but less destructive than letting the entire company implode. On Friday afternoon, Graham Whitmore stood in front of the board and resigned. Celeste watched the press conference from Lucien's office. Graham looked destroyed, hollow, like a man who had lost everything that mattered. But he was alive, and the company, what was left of it, would survive. Celeste turned off the television. It's done, she said. Lucien nodded. How do you feel? Tired. That's fair. Celeste looked at him. What happens now? Now, Lucien said, we figure out what comes next. But before Celeste could respond, Lucien's phone rang. He answered. Yes? His expression changed. When? Pause. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He hung up. What is it? Celeste asked. Lucien's face was grim. Emily Garrison's mother. Celeste's stomach dropped. What about her? She's at my office. She says she knows what happened to her daughter. Lucien looked at Celeste. And she wants answers. Emily Garrison's mother sat in Lucien's office like a woman who had already died but forgot to stop breathing. Her name was Patricia, 58 years old. Gray hair pulled back in a bun that looked like it had been tied the same way for decades. She wore a brown cardigan over a floral dress, both faded from too many washes. Her hands clutched a worn leather purse in her lap, knuckles white. When Celeste and Lucien walked in, Patricia looked up with eyes that had cried themselves empty years ago. Mr. Moretti, she said quietly. Her voice was steady, too steady, the kind of control that came from rehearsing this moment 1,000 times. Lucien closed the door behind them. Mrs. Garrison, he said, you didn't need to come here. I would have come to you. No, Patricia said. You wouldn't have. Silence. Lucien moved to his desk but didn't sit. Celeste stood near the door, her stomach churning with dread. How did you find out? Lucien asked. Patricia reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. She set it on the desk. Someone sent this to my house 3 days ago, she said. No return address, just this. Lucien picked up the envelope, pulled out the contents, documents, photos, bank transfers, evidence. His face went pale. "Who sent this?" he asked. "I don't know," Patricia said, "but it's all there. Everything that happened to my daughter. Who ordered it? Who covered it up? Who paid to make the investigation disappear?" She looked directly at Lucian. "You knew." It wasn't a question. Lucian's jaw tightened. "Yes." Patricia's composure cracked for just a moment. Her lips trembled. Then she pulled herself together again. "Why?" she whispered. "Because exposing it would have destroyed everything I built." "So you let her die." "I didn't kill her." "But you protected the man who did." Lucian didn't respond, because there was nothing to say that would make it better. Patricia stood slowly, her movements careful, deliberate. "My daughter was 26 years old," she said. "She was smart, kind. She was going to be a teacher. She had a fiancé. They were planning a wedding." Her voice broke. "And you let the man who murdered her walk free because your empire was more important than her life." Celeste felt like she was going to be sick. Lucienne stood motionless, absorbing every word like bullets. Patricia stepped closer. "I didn't come here for an apology," she said. "I came to tell you that I'm going to the police tomorrow morning, and I'm going to give them everything in that envelope." Lucienne's face didn't change. "I understand." "Do you?" Patricia's voice rose. "Do you understand what you took from me? Do you understand that I wake up every morning and my daughter is still dead, and the man responsible is still walking around because you decided his freedom was worth more than her justice?" Lucian's hands curled into fists at his sides. "No," he said quietly. "I don't understand, and I never will." Patricia stared at him for a long moment. Then she picked up her purse and walked toward the door. She stopped when she reached Celeste. "You should leave him," Patricia said. Celeste's breath caught. "Before you become someone you don't recognize." Then Patricia walked out. The door clicked shut. The silence that followed felt like the aftermath of an explosion. Celeste couldn't move, couldn't speak. Lucien stood behind his desk, staring at the envelope like it was a bomb that had just gone off in his hands. "Who sent this?" Celeste asked finally. "I don't know." "Lucien, I don't know," he repeated, louder this time. But whoever it was knew exactly what they were doing. He picked up the documents, flipping through them with increasing agitation. "This is internal," he said. "Bank records from accounts only 5 people have access to. Emails from secure servers, photos taken inside my own offices." He looked up at Celeste. "Someone inside my organization did this." Celeste's chest tightened. "Why?" "To destroy me." "But who would—" Lucian's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen. His face went white. "What?" Celeste asked. Lucian turned the phone around. It was a news alert. Breaking. Federal investigation launched into Lucien Moretti's business operations. Anonymous tip links. Moretti to 2019 murder. Celeste's legs went weak. "Oh my God." Lucian set the phone down carefully. "They're coming for me." "How fast?" "Hours, maybe less." He moved to the window, staring out at the city below. "I need to leave," he said. "Tonight, before they freeze my assets and lock me down." Celeste's heart hammered. "Where will you go?" "Somewhere without extradition." "For how long?" Lucien turned to look at her. "Maybe forever." The word hung in the air between them like smoke. Celeste crossed the room. "Then I'm coming with you." "No." "Lucien." "No," he said firmly. "If you run with me, you become an accessory. They'll destroy you too." "I don't care." "I do." He grabbed her shoulders. "Celeste, listen to me. You've spent 4 years rebuilding your life. I'm not going to let you throw it away because of my mistakes. You didn't make this mistake alone. I've been part of this. You didn't know about Emily, but I know now, and I'm still choosing you." Lucien's expression softened, then hardened again. "You need to go," he said, "right now, before anyone connects you to this. I'm not leaving you." "Yes, you are." He pulled away, moving to his desk. He opened a drawer, pulled out a burner phone, and handed it to her. "Take this. Don't turn it on unless it's an emergency. Don't contact me. Don't try to find me." "Lucien, please," he said. His voice cracked. "Please just do this one thing. Let me protect you the only way I can." Celeste stared at the phone in her hand. Every instinct screamed at her to stay, to fight, to refuse to let him face this alone. But the look in his eyes told her arguing was useless. "I love you," she whispered. Lucian pulled her close, kissing her hard. "I love you too," he said against her mouth. "Now go." Celeste pulled away, tears streaming down her face. She walked to the door, stopped, looked back. Lucian stood in the middle of his office, surrounded by the wreckage of his empire, looking like a king watching his kingdom burn. "I'll find you," Celeste said. "I know." Then she left. Celeste drove in a daze, barely seeing the road. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. "Hello?" "Mrs. Whitmore." The voice was unfamiliar, male, calm. "Who is this?" "Someone who knows what you've been doing." Celeste's blood went cold. "What do you want?" "I want you to understand something," the voice said. "Everything that's happening right now, Lucian's investigation, the evidence sent to Patricia Garrison, the federal case, all of it was set in motion by you." "What are you talking about?" "You wanted revenge on Graham Whitmore. You used Lucien Moretti to get it, and in doing so, you drew attention to things that should have stayed buried." Celeste's hands shook on the wheel. "Who the hell are you?" "Someone who's been watching, and someone who's very interested in making sure you understand the consequences of your actions." The line went dead. Celeste stared at the phone. Then she pulled over, got out of the car, and threw up on the side of the road. She didn't go home. Home wasn't safe. Instead, she drove to a motel on the outskirts of the city, the kind of place that took cash and didn't ask questions. She checked in under a fake name, locked the door, and sat on the bed with the lights off. Her mind raced. Someone had orchestrated this. Someone who knew about her. Lucian, Graham, Emily Garrison, all of it. But who? And why? Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Turn on the TV. Channel 7. Celeste's hands trembled as she grabbed the remote. She turned on the television. The news was already covering it. A reporter stood outside Lucian's office building, microphone in hand, speaking urgently into the camera. Federal agents arrived approximately 30 minutes ago with warrants to search the premises. Sources say the investigation centers around allegations of murder, racketeering, and money laundering. Lucien Moretti, the billionaire businessman whose empire spans shipping, real estate, and security, is believed to have fled the city. Celeste's vision blurred. The reporter continued. And in a shocking development, investigators are also looking into Moretti's relationship with Celeste Whitmore, the ex-wife of Graham Whitmore, whose own company recently collapsed amid financial scandal. Sources suggest Mrs. Whitmore may have been involved in... Celeste turned off the TV. Her name. They said her name. On national television. She was connected to this now, publicly, irreversibly. Her phone rang again. She answered without checking the number. "What do you want from me?" she screamed. "I want you to come see me." Different voice this time, familiar. Celeste's stomach dropped. "Graham?" "Hello, Celeste." She couldn't breathe. "What did you do?" "I protected myself," Graham said calmly. "Something I should have done 4 years ago." "You sent that evidence to Patricia Garrison?" "Yes." "You destroyed Lucien?" "No," Graham said. "You destroyed Lucien. I just made sure everyone knew about it." Celeste's hands shook so hard she almost dropped the phone. "Why?" "Because you tried to destroy me," Graham said. "And I don't lose, Celeste. Not to you, not to anyone. You already lost everything. I lost a company. Companies can be rebuilt. But you," his voice turned cold, "you tried to take my reputation, my name, everything I spent 30 years building. You deserved it." "Maybe," Graham said, "but you made one critical mistake." "What?" "You underestimated me." Celeste's vision swam. "You've been watching me this whole time." "Of course I have. Did you really think I wouldn't figure out what you were doing? That I wouldn't trace the anonymous tips, the leaked documents, the investors suddenly pulling out?" He laughed. It was a brittle, broken sound. "I knew it was you within 3 months. But I waited. I watched. I learned who you were working with. And when I found out it was Lucien Moretti, a man with more skeletons than a graveyard, I knew exactly how to destroy both of you." Celeste felt like the ground was collapsing beneath her. All I had to do, Graham continued, was dig into Moretti's past, find the worst thing he'd ever done, and then make sure it came to light at exactly the right moment. You're a monster. No, Graham said. I'm a survivor, just like you. Silence. Then Graham's voice softened. Come see me, Celeste. Let's talk. Face to face. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, I'll make sure the federal investigation includes you. I'll give them everything I have on your involvement with Moretti. Bank records, meetings, emails, all of it. Celeste's chest tightened. You're blackmailing me. I'm offering you a choice, Graham said. Come talk to me, and I'll keep you out of this. Or refuse, and I'll make sure you go down with him. Where? The Ashbourne Grand, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Why there? Because that's where this started, Graham said, and that's where it ends. He hung up. Celeste sat in the darkness, phone still pressed to her ear, feeling like her entire world had just shattered. Graham had won. He had played her from the beginning. Let her think she was destroying him while he quietly gathered everything he needed to destroy her instead. And now Lucien was gone, running from a federal investigation that would chase him for the rest of his life. And Celeste was alone. Again. She screamed. The sound ripped out of her throat, raw and jagged, echoing in the empty motel room. Then she threw the phone against the wall. It shattered. Celeste collapsed onto the bed, sobbing, not from grief, from rage, because she had been so focused on revenge that she hadn't seen the trap closing around her. And now she was caught. She didn't sleep, just lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, replaying every decision that had led her here. By dawn, she had made up her mind. She was going to meet Graham, not because she was afraid, but because she needed to look him in the eye and understand how he had beaten her. She got up, showered, and checked out of the motel. She drove back to the city in silence. When she arrived at her apartment, Lucien's apartment, technically, she found it crawling with federal agents. They were tearing the place apart. Celeste watched from across the street, heart pounding. Everything she owned was in there: clothes, documents, the yellow notebook she had kept hidden for years. All of it in the hands of people who would use it to destroy her. She turned around and left. She spent the day in a coffee shop, sitting in the back corner with a laptop she bought from a pawn shop. She searched for news about Lucien. Nothing. He had vanished completely. No sightings, no statements, no trace. Part of her was relieved. He was safe. For now. But part of her felt abandoned. She pushed the feeling down. This wasn't about her. Lucien was running for his life. She didn't get to be hurt that he left her behind. At 7 p.m., she closed the laptop and walked to the Ashbourne Grand. The same hotel, the same golden facade, the same marble steps. The doorman recognized her. Mrs. Whitmore, he said, surprised. Not anymore, Celeste replied. She walked inside. The lobby was empty except for a few guests checking in. She took the elevator to the 5th floor, where Graham had texted her the room number. She knocked. The door opened. Graham stood there in a navy suit, no tie, top button undone. He looked better than he had at the gala. Healthier, stronger, like a man who had survived a war and come out the other side sharper. Celeste, he said, thank you for coming. She walked past him into the suite. It was massive, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, expensive furniture arranged to look casual, a bottle of wine breathing on the table. Graham closed the door. Can I get you a drink? No. Suit yourself. He poured himself a glass and sat down on the couch. Celeste remained standing. Why am I here, Graham? Because I wanted to talk. About what? About us. Celeste laughed bitterly. There is no us. There was, Graham said, for 22 years. And you destroyed it in 3 minutes. Graham took a sip of wine. I did, he said, and I regret it. Bullshit. I'm serious. You just spent the last 6 months orchestrating my destruction. You don't get to claim regret. Graham set down his glass. You're right, he said. I don't regret what I did at the gala. I regret what I lost because of it. What did you lose? You. Celeste stared at him. You're insane. Maybe, Graham said, but I'm also honest. He stood, moving closer. I spent 4 years thinking you were weak, broken, that you had crawled into a hole somewhere and given up. He stopped a few feet away. But you didn't. You rebuilt yourself, became someone stronger, smarter, more dangerous than I ever imagined. And when you came back, he shook his head. I finally understood what I had thrown away. Celeste's chest tightened. Is that supposed to make me feel something? No, Graham said. It's supposed to make you understand why I did what I did. You destroyed Lucien because you were jealous. I destroyed Lucien because he was turning you into someone you're not. You don't know who I am. Yes, I do, Graham said. I know you better than anyone. I was married to you for 22 years, Celeste. I know how you think, how you feel, what you're capable of. He stepped closer. And I know that the woman who spent the last 4 years destroying my empire isn't you. It's who you became because of him. That's not true, isn't it? Graham asked. The Celeste I knew would never have hurt innocent people to get revenge. She would never have allied herself with a man like Moretti. She would never have become ruthless. Celeste's hands curled into fists. The Celeste you knew doesn't exist anymore. You killed her. No, Graham said softly. I broke her, but she's still in there. He reached out. Celeste slapped his hand away. But don't touch me. Graham pulled back, hands raised. I'm not trying to hurt you, Celeste. I'm trying to save you. From what? From yourself. Celeste laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound. You destroyed the man I love. You're threatening to send me to prison, and you think you're saving me? Moretti doesn't love you, Graham said. He used you. He saw a broken woman with knowledge of my company, and he turned you into a weapon. That's not true. Then where is he? The question landed like a slap. He's protecting me, Celeste said. By running? By leaving you alone to face the consequences of everything you did together? He didn't have a choice. There's always a choice, Graham said, and he chose himself over you. Celeste's vision blurred with tears. You don't know anything about him. I know he's a criminal, Graham said. I know he's responsible for at least one woman's death. And I know that if you stay loyal to him, you'll go down with him. He moved closer again. But it doesn't have to be that way. What do you want from me, Graham? I want you to come back. Celeste's breath caught. What? Not to me, Graham clarified. To yourself, to the woman you were before all of this. That woman is dead. No, Graham said. She's just buried, and I can help you find her again. How? By making all of this go away. Celeste stared at him. You can't. Yes, I can, Graham said. I still have connections. People who owe me favors. I can make sure the federal investigation focuses on Moretti and leaves you out of it. I can keep your name clean. Why would you do that? Graham's expression softened. Because despite everything, he said quietly, I still care about you. Celeste felt like she was drowning. What do you want in return? I want you to walk away, Graham said. From Moretti. From the revenge. From all of it. I want you to start over. Clean slate. And if I don't? Graham's face hardened. Then I give the feds everything I have on you. Bank records showing you paid off journalists to leak false stories about my company. Emails proving you orchestrated the investor withdrawals. Testimony from people who saw you meeting with Moretti. He paused. You'll spend the next 10 years in prison, Celeste. Maybe longer. Celeste's legs felt weak. You're giving me an ultimatum. I'm giving you a choice. That's not a choice. That's coercion. Call it whatever you want, Graham said. But you need to decide right now. Celeste looked at him, really looked at him, the man she had spent 22 years loving, the man who had destroyed her publicly without hesitation, the man who was now offering to save her, for a price. If I agree, she said slowly, what happens to Lucien? He faces justice. You mean he goes to prison? Yes. And I'm supposed to just let that happen. You don't have a choice. Celeste closed her eyes. She thought about Lucien, about the way he had looked at her the first time they met, about the way he had held her when she woke up screaming, about the way he had loved her without asking her to be anyone other than who she was. She thought about Patricia Garrison, about Emily. about all the women who had been destroyed by men who valued power over people. She thought about Sarah crying at her desk at Whitmore Global, about all the employees who had lost their jobs because of her. She thought about the woman she used to be and the woman she had become. And she realized something. She didn't know who she was anymore. She opened her eyes. "I need time," she said. "You have until tomorrow morning," Graham said. "After that, I make the call." Celeste turned and walked toward the door. "Celeste." She stopped. "For what it's worth," Graham said, "I'm sorry it came to this." Celeste looked back at him. "No, you're not." Then she left. She walked through the city for hours. No destination, just movement. Her mind churned. Graham was right about one thing. Lucien had left her. He had run to save himself, and she was alone facing the consequences of everything they had done together. But Graham was also manipulating her, using her guilt, her fear, her exhaustion to force her into a corner. She couldn't trust him, but she couldn't ignore him either, because he had all the power, and she had none. At midnight, she found herself standing outside the warehouse where she had first met Lucien 2 years ago. It was abandoned now, locked up, dark. She sat down on the curb outside and finally let herself cry. Not quietly, not with control, just raw, wrenching sobs that tore out of her chest like they had been trapped there for years. She cried for the woman she used to be, for the woman she had become, for Lucien, for Emily, for herself. When the tears finally stopped, she sat in the silence, empty and exhausted. Her phone, the burner Lucien had given her, buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out. One new message. "I'm sorry," that was all. Just 2 words. From Lucien. Celeste stared at the screen. Then she typed back. "Where are you?" No response. She waited. 5 minutes. 10. Nothing. She stood wiping her face. And she made her decision. She wasn't going to choose between Graham and Lucien. She wasn't going to let either of them decide her fate. She was going to burn it all down. Both of them. Everything. And she was going to walk away free, or die trying. She turned and walked into the night, and for the first time in years, Celeste Whitmore felt like herself again. Not the woman Graham had married, not the woman Lucien had rebuilt. Just herself. Dangerous, uncontrollable, and done playing by anyone's rules but her own. Celeste spent the rest of the night in a parking garage 3 blocks from the warehouse, sitting in a stolen car she had hot-wired with skills she didn't know she possessed until desperation taught her. Her hands still trembled from the adrenaline. She had broken into a used car lot, bypassed the alarm system using techniques she'd learned watching one of Lucien's security contractors work, and driven away before anyone noticed. Grand Theft Auto. Add it to the list. She pulled out the burner phone and stared at Lucien's message again. "I'm sorry." 2 words that meant everything and nothing. She typed back. "I need your help, one last time." She waited. Dawn crept over the city, painting the sky orange and purple. The phone buzzed. "What do you need?" Celeste's heart hammered. "Everything Graham has on me. Every document, every recording, every piece of evidence he plans to give the feds." Long pause. "That's suicide." "I know. Celeste, can you do it or not?" Another pause. "Yes, but it'll cost you everything I have left." "Do it. Where are you?" She sent him the address of an abandoned shipping facility near the docks. Neutral ground, a place Lucien's people had used for meetings that needed to stay off the books. 2 hours, Lucien replied. Celeste put the phone away and closed her eyes. She had 2 hours to figure out how to destroy both men who thought they owned her. 2 hours to become someone neither of them would recognize. 2 hours to decide if she was willing to cross the last line she had left. She opened her eyes. Yes, she was. Celeste arrived at the shipping facility 90 minutes later. The building was massive, rusted metal and broken windows, surrounded by chain-link fence topped with barbed wire. The kind of place where bodies could disappear and nobody would ask questions. Perfect. She parked the stolen car behind a stack of shipping containers and walked inside. The interior was cavernous, empty. Sunlight streamed through holes in the roof, illuminating decades of dust. Her footsteps echoed. She found a spot in the center of the space where she could see all the entrances and waited. 30 minutes later, she heard a car pull up outside. Footsteps. One person. Lucien stepped through the doorway. He looked like hell, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, clothes rumpled like he'd been sleeping in them. But he was here. He stopped 20 feet away. "You shouldn't have called me," he said. I didn't have a choice." "There's always a choice." "Not anymore." Lucien moved closer, his boots crunching on broken glass. "Graham's got you cornered," he said. "I know. I've been tracking the investigation." "Can you get what I asked for?" "Maybe, but it won't matter." "Why not?" "Because even if you destroy his evidence, the feds already have enough to prosecute both of us. Graham just has the extra insurance to make sure you go down harder." Celeste's stomach twisted. "Then what do I do?" Lucien stopped 5 feet away. "You run." "I'm tired of running." "Then you fight." "How?" Lucien reached into his jacket and pulled out a flash drive. "This is everything I could pull in the last 2 hours," he said. "Financial records showing Graham orchestrated the leak to Patricia Garrison. Phone logs proving he's been working with federal prosecutors to build a case against you. Emails between him and his attorneys discussing how to frame you as the mastermind behind everything." He held it out. "It won't exonerate you, but it'll drag him down with you." Celeste took the drive. "Why are you helping me?" "Because I love you." "You left me." "I left to protect you." "By running like a coward?" Lucien's jaw tightened. "Yes." Celeste stared at him. "You could have stayed. We could have faced this together." "And we'd both be in federal custody right now," Lucien said. "This way, at least one of us has a chance." "But not both." "No." Celeste felt tears burning behind her eyes. "I don't want to do this alone." "You're not alone," Lucien said. "I'm here now." "For how long?" "As long as you need me." Celeste looked down at the flash drive in her hand. "If I use this, Graham goes to prison." "Yes. And so do I. Probably. And you?" Lucien nodded. "Then we're all destroyed." "Yes." Celeste closed her fist around the drive. "Good." Lucien's expression shifted. "Celeste, I'm done playing their game," she said. "Graham thinks he can blackmail me into submission. The feds think they can use me to get to you. Everyone thinks I'm just collateral damage." She looked up. "But I'm not." Lucien studied her face. "What are you planning?" "I'm planning to burn everything down," Celeste said. "Graham, the investigation, all of it." "How?" "By giving them what they want." "What do they want?" Celeste smiled. It was cold, sharp. "A confession." Graham's phone rang at 8 a.m. He answered on the second ring. "Celeste?" "I'll do it," she said. Silence. "You'll walk away from Moretti?" "Yes." "And you'll cooperate with the investigation?" "Yes." Graham exhaled slowly. "Smart decision." "I want to meet," Celeste said, "face to face, one last time." "Why?" "Because I want to look you in the eye when I agree to let you win." Graham was quiet for a moment. "Where?" "The docks, Pier 17, noon." "Why there?" "Because it's where I used to go when I needed to think," Celeste said. "Before you destroyed my life." Graham's voice softened. "I'll be there." Celeste hung up. She looked at Lucien. "He's coming." "Are you sure about this?" "No." "Then why—" "Because I'm out of options," Celeste interrupted, "and I'd rather go down fighting than surrender." Lucien moved closer. "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do." "Why?" "Because if I don't, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering if I was strong enough." The same words she had said before the gala. Lucien recognized them. He pulled her close, kissing her hard. "Then let's finish this," he said. Pier 17 was abandoned. The shipping company that owned it had gone bankrupt 3 years ago, leaving behind rusted cranes, rotting wood, and the smell of salt and decay. Celeste stood at the end of the pier, staring out at the water. Behind her, hidden in the shadows of a warehouse, Lucien waited with 2 of his remaining men, Anton and a younger guy named Marco, who looked barely old enough to buy alcohol. "You sure he'll come alone?" Anton asked. "No," Celeste said. "But it doesn't matter. If he brings people, Then we adapt. Marco shifted nervously. What if this goes wrong? Celeste looked at him. Then we die. Marco went pale. Anton put a hand on his shoulder. She's kidding. Celeste wasn't kidding. At 11:58, a black Mercedes pulled up to the pier. Graham stepped out. Alone. He walked toward Celeste slowly, hands in his pockets, looking calm. Too calm. Celeste's instincts screamed. Graham stopped 10 feet away. You came, he said. So did you. I gave you my word. Your word means nothing. Graham smiled sadly. Fair enough. He looked around. This place is depressing. It suits the occasion, Graham nodded. I suppose it does. He moved closer. So, you're really going to walk away from Moretti? Yes. And cooperate with the investigation? Yes. Why do I not believe you? Because you're not stupid. Graham's smile faded. Then why are we here, Celeste? Because I wanted to give you one last chance. For what? To tell the truth. Graham's expression hardened. About what? About everything, Celeste said. About why you really destroyed me 4 years ago. About why you're so desperate to destroy Lucien now. About what you're really afraid of. I'm not afraid of anything. You're terrified, Celeste said. You're terrified that people will realize you're not the genius businessman everyone thinks you are. That your empire was built on lies and stolen ideas and other people's work. Graham's face went white. That's not true. Yes, it is, Celeste said. I was there for 22 years, Graham. I watched you take credit for other people's innovations. I watched you fire the people who made you successful so you wouldn't have to pay them. I watched you manipulate investors with fake projections. Everyone does that. Not everyone stands on a stage and destroys their wife to hide the fact that their company is collapsing. Graham flinched. I didn't. Yes, you did, Celeste interrupted. You married Selena and announced it publicly because you needed the distraction. You needed everyone focused on the scandal so they wouldn't notice the financial problems. She stepped closer. But it didn't work, because I know where all the bodies are buried, Graham, and I've been digging them up for 4 years. Graham's hands curled into fists. What do you want, Celeste? I want you to admit what you did. To who? Celeste pulled out her phone. She held it up. The screen showed a recording app. Active recording. Graham's eyes widened. You're recording this? Yes. You think that matters? You think anyone will care? The feds will, Celeste said, especially when they hear you admit to fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. Graham laughed. I haven't admitted to anything. Not yet. Celeste pressed a button on her phone. A voice played through the speaker. Graham's voice. From earlier that week. I orchestrated the leak to Patricia Garrison. I made sure Moretti's past came to light at exactly the right moment. Graham went rigid. Where did you... I've been planning this for months, watching Celeste, tracking her movements, gathering evidence. The recording continued. Graham talking to someone, his attorney probably, discussing how he had manipulated the federal investigation to target both Celeste and Lucien. When it finished, Celeste stopped the playback. That's illegal, Graham said. You can't use that. I don't need to use it in court, Celeste said. I just need to leak it to the media. Graham's face twisted with rage. You wouldn't. Try me. Celeste, you destroyed me because I was inconvenient, Celeste said. Her voice was cold, final. You humiliated me in front of everyone we knew because you needed a distraction from your failing company. And then you spent 4 years hunting me down so you could finish what you started. She stepped closer. But you made one mistake, Graham. What? You underestimated how much I learned from you. Graham stared at her. Then he lunged. He moved fast, grabbing for the phone. Celeste twisted away, but he caught her wrist. Pain shot up her arm. Give me the phone, Graham shouted. Let go of me. He yanked her forward. She stumbled. Then Lucien was there. He came out of nowhere, slamming into Graham like a freight train. They went down hard, hitting the pier with a crash that echoed across the water. Graham swung wildly. His fist connected with Lucien's jaw. Lucien's head snapped back, but he didn't let go. He drove his knee into Graham's ribs. Graham gasped, the air driven from his lungs. Celeste scrambled backward, clutching her wrist. Anton and Marco appeared, running toward the fight, but they stopped, because 6 men emerged from behind the warehouse. Graham's men, armed. "Shit," Anton muttered. Marco pulled a gun. One of Graham's men fired. The shot cracked through the air like thunder. Marco went down, clutching his shoulder, screaming. Anton returned fire. Chaos erupted. Gunshots, shouting, bodies diving for cover. Celeste ran. She didn't think, just moved. She sprinted toward the warehouse, ducking behind a shipping container as bullets ricocheted off metal. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it would explode. Behind her, Lucien and Graham were still fighting, rolling across the pier, fists, elbows, grunts of pain. Graham got on top, raining down punches. Lucien blocked some, took others. Blood streamed from his nose. Then Lucien bucked, throwing Graham off. He scrambled to his feet, swaying. Graham stood too, breathing hard. "You think you won?" Graham spat. "You think any of this matters?" Lucien wiped blood from his mouth. "I think you're going to prison." "We're all going to prison," Graham said. "The difference is, I'll survive it. You won't." He pulled a gun from his jacket, leveled it at Lucien's chest. "Graham, don't!" Celeste screamed. Graham's finger tightened on the trigger. Time slowed. Celeste didn't think. She ran, threw herself between them. The gun went off. The sound was deafening. Pain exploded in Celeste's side. White hot, searing. She staggered, looked down. Blood, so much blood, soaking through her shirt, spreading. She touched it. Her hand came away red. "Celeste!" Lucien's voice, distant, like he was underwater. She fell. Lucien caught her before she hit the ground. "No, no, no," he was saying. "Stay with me. Stay with me." Celeste tried to speak. Blood filled her mouth. Graham stood frozen, the gun still in his hand, staring at her with an expression of absolute horror. "I didn't," he stammered. "I didn't mean—" "You shot her!" Lucien roared. Anton appeared, gun raised, aimed at Graham. "Drop it!" Graham dropped the gun. It clattered on the pier. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Someone had called the cops. Lucien pressed his hands against Celeste's side, trying to stop the bleeding. "You're okay," he was saying. "You're going to be okay." But Celeste could feel herself fading. The pain was overwhelming. Then it wasn't. Then she felt nothing, just cold. So cold. "Celeste, look at me," Lucien said. She tried. His face was blurry, tears streaming down his cheeks. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Don't apologize. Just stay awake." "I can't." "Yes, you can. Celeste, please, my—" She smiled, or tried to. "I love you," she said. Then everything went black. When Celeste woke up, she was in a hospital. White walls, white ceiling, the steady beep of a heart monitor. Pain radiated through her entire body. She tried to sit up, couldn't. A nurse appeared. "Don't move," the nurse said gently. "You're safe. You're in surgery recovery." "How long 2 days." Celeste's mind reeled. 2 days. "Where's Lucien?" The nurse's expression shifted. "I'll get the doctor." "Where is he?" The nurse left. A few minutes later, a detective walked in. Tall, middle-aged, tired eyes. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said. "I'm Detective Carver. I need to ask you some questions." Celeste's chest tightened. "Where's Lucien Moretti?" "In federal custody." The words hit like a punch. "And Graham?" "Also in custody. He's being charged with attempted murder." Celeste closed her eyes. "What about me?" "That depends," Detective Carver said. "On what you tell me." Celeste opened her eyes. "I want a lawyer. Smart." Detective Carver pulled out a chair and sat down. "But before your lawyer gets here, I need you to understand something. You're facing multiple felony charges. Conspiracy, fraud, racketeering. If you go to trial, you'll spend the next 20 years in prison." He paused. "But if you cooperate, if you testify against Moretti and Whitmore, we can make a deal." Celeste stared at him. "You want me to betray them?" "I want you to tell the truth. The truth is complicated. Then uncomplicate it. Celeste looked at the ceiling. She thought about Lucien, in a cell somewhere, alone, because of her. She thought about Graham, facing charges because he tried to kill her. She thought about Emily Garrison, Patricia, Sarah, all the people destroyed by men who valued power over humanity. She thought about who she had become, and who she wanted to be. "I'll cooperate," she said finally. Detective Carver nodded. "Smart decision. But I have conditions." "What conditions?" "I want immunity, full immunity, for everything." "That's not how this works." "Then I don't talk." Detective Carver's jaw tightened. "I'll see what I can do." He stood, stopped at the door. "For what it's worth," he said, "I'm sorry about what happened to you. Nobody deserves what Whitmore did." Then he left. Celeste lay in the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling hollow. She had survived, but at what cost? Lucien was gone, Graham was destroyed, and she was alone. Again. Her phone buzzed on the table beside her, the burner. She grabbed it with her good hand. One new message. "I'm proud of you, Lucien." Celeste's throat tightened. She typed back with shaking fingers. "I'm sorry." The response came immediately. "Don't be. You did what you had to do. I destroyed us." "No, we destroyed ourselves." Celeste stared at the screen, tears streaming down her face. "What happens now?" Long pause. "Now you survive. That's all that matters." "What about you?" "I'll be fine." Celeste knew he was lying. "I love you," she typed. "I love you too. Now go live." The phone went dead. Celeste dropped it on the bed and closed her eyes. Outside her window, the sun was setting, painting the sky red and gold, like fire, like the end of everything. And maybe it was. But for the first time in 4 years, Celeste Whitmore was still breathing, still fighting, still alive, and that would have to be enough. 3 weeks after the shooting, Celeste was released from the hospital wearing clothes that didn't belong to her and carrying nothing but the burner phone that had gone silent days ago. The federal prosecutor's office had arranged a safe house, a beige apartment in a forgettable suburb 40 minutes outside the city. 2 bedrooms. Cheap furniture? A view of a parking lot. She hated it immediately. But she signed the papers, accepted the key from the U.S. Marshal assigned to her case, and moved in with nothing but a duffel bag full of donated clothes and a prescription bottle of painkillers she didn't plan to take. Pain kept her sharp. Numbness was dangerous. The deal was simple. Full testimony against both Graham Whitmore and Lucien Moretti in exchange for immunity from prosecution. The prosecutors had been salivating when she agreed. 2 major targets with 1 cooperative witness. They didn't care that she was the reason both men had fallen. They just wanted convictions. Celeste spent her days in the apartment, staring at walls, waiting for phone calls from attorneys who asked the same questions over and over until her answers became mechanical. Yes, she had conspired with Lucien Moretti to destroy Graham Whitmore's company. Yes, she had provided information to journalists that damaged Graham's reputation. Yes, she knew about Emily Garrison's murder. No, she didn't know who killed her. That part was true. Lucien had never told her the name. At night, she lay awake listening to cars pass on the street below, wondering if Lucien was doing the same thing in whatever cell they were holding him in. Wondering if he hated her. Wondering if she deserved it. On the 23rd day, Detective Carver showed up at her door unannounced. She let him in because refusing would have looked suspicious. He sat on her couch without being invited, looking tired in a way that went deeper than lack of sleep. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Like I got shot." "Fair enough." He pulled out a folder and set it on the coffee table. "I need to show you something." Celeste sat down across from him, her side still aching where the bullet had torn through muscle and scraped bone. Detective Carver opened the folder. Inside were photos. Crime scene photos. A woman's body in a dumpster behind a warehouse. Celeste's stomach turned. "Emily Garrison," Detective Carver said quietly. Celeste looked away. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because I want you to understand what you're protecting by not giving us the name." "I don't know the name." "You could find out." "How?" "By asking Moretti." Celeste laughed bitterly. "I'm testifying against him. You think he's going to tell me anything?" "He's in love with you," Detective Carver said. People do stupid things when they're in love. Celeste met his eyes. What do you want from me? I want justice for Emily Garrison. Then get it without me. Detective Carver leaned back, studying her. You're not as cold as you pretend to be, he said. You don't know me. I know you saved Sarah Morrison's job. I know you helped 6 other employees from Whitmore Global find work at companies connected to Moretti's network. I know you spent 4 years destroying a man who hurt you, but made sure innocent people didn't suffer for it. He paused. That's not the behavior of someone without a conscience. Celeste looked down at her hands. What do you want me to say? I want you to help me close this case. I can't. Why not? Because I'm already destroying him, Celeste said. Her voice cracked. Isn't that enough? Detective Carver stood. Not for Patricia Garrison. He left the folder on the table. Celeste stared at it long after he was gone. 2 days later, she received a visitor she hadn't expected. Patricia Garrison. The older woman stood in the doorway of the safe house, looking smaller than she had in Lucy Shin's office. Older, more fragile, but her eyes were still hard. Mrs. Garrison, Celeste said, how did you find me? Detective Carver told me where you were. Of course he did. Celeste stepped aside. Patricia walked in slowly, looking around the apartment like she was cataloging evidence. They sat in the living room. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Patricia spoke. I came to ask you something. What? Do you know who killed my daughter? Celeste's chest tightened. No. But Lucien Moretti does. Yes. And you're protecting him. I'm testifying against him. But you're not telling them everything. Celeste looked away. Patricia leaned forward. My daughter was 26 years old, she said. Her voice was steady but brittle. She called me every Sunday. She sent me flowers on Mother's Day. She was going to be married in October. Her hands trembled. And someone took all of that away from her, from me. And you know who it was. I don't... You could find out. Celeste stood, agitated. Why does everyone think I have power I don't have? Because you do, Patricia said. Lucien Moretti is in love with you. He would tell you anything if you asked. And what do you want me to do with that information? Give it to the police? Let them arrest the man who murdered my daughter. Celeste turned to face her. And what if giving them that name means more people die? Patricia's expression hardened. More people? Lucien has enemies, Celeste said. Powerful enemies. If he gives up someone inside his organization, those enemies will retaliate. People will die. Innocent people. My daughter was innocent. I know. Then why are you protecting her killer? I'm not protecting him. I'm trying to stop more blood from being spilled. Patricia stood, her face pale with rage. You're lying to yourself, she said. You're not protecting innocent people. You're protecting the man you love. Celeste felt tears burning behind her eyes. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, Patricia interrupted. I understand that my daughter is dead, and you could help me find justice, and you're choosing not to. She walked toward the door, stopped, looked back. I hope you can live with that, she said. Then she left. Celeste stood in the empty apartment, shaking. She pulled out her phone, the burner, stared at Lucien's last message. Now go live, she typed slowly. I need to see you. She waited. 5 minutes, 10, 20. No response. She was about to give up when the phone buzzed. That's not possible. I don't care. I need to see you. Long pause. Why? Celeste closed her eyes. Because I need to ask you something. Another pause. You already know the answer. Celeste's hands trembled. Then I need to hear you say it. The response took so long she thought he wasn't going to answer. Then, I'll see what I can do. 3 days later, Celeste sat in a federal detention center, visiting room across a table from Lucien Moretti. He looked worse than she had imagined. Thinner, exhausted, the kind of tired that came from weeks of legal battles and sleepless nights. But when he saw her, his eyes softened. You shouldn't be here, he said. I know. The prosecutors find out you visited me. I don't care. Lucien reached across the table. She took his hand. His fingers were cold. How's the side? He asked. Healing. You look pale. So do you. He smiled faintly. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Celeste spoke. I need you to tell me who killed Emily Garrison. Lucien's expression went blank. Why? Because her mother came to see me, and I realized I can't live with myself if I don't at least try to get her justice. Lucien pulled his hand back. You know what happens if I give you that name. Yes, people will die, Celeste. Not just the man who killed her, his family, his friends, anyone connected to him. I know. And you still want the name? Celeste looked down at her hands. I don't want it, she said quietly, but Emily deserves justice, and Patricia deserves closure. And what about the people who will die because I gave you that name? They made their choices. So did Emily. Celeste looked up sharply. What's that supposed to mean? Lucien leaned back in his chair. Emily Garrison wasn't some innocent victim who stumbled into the wrong place at the wrong time, he said. She knew what she was getting into. She took a job with my organization knowing it operated in gray areas. She signed NDAs. She accepted payments that came from offshore accounts. He paused. And when she found out about something she wasn't supposed to know, she tried to blackmail me. Celeste's breath caught. That's not what you told me before. I didn't tell you everything before. Why not? Because I wanted you to see me as better than I am. Celeste stared at him. So you're saying she deserved to die? No, Lucien said firmly. She didn't deserve to die. But she wasn't some angel. She was a person who made bad choices and paid for them. Just like you. Yes. Just like me. Lucien nodded slowly. Celeste leaned forward. Give me the name, Lucien. Why? Because I need to know that you trust me enough to tell me the truth, even when it destroys you. Lucien's jaw tightened. He looked at her for a long time. Then he spoke. Vincent Calloway. The name hit Celeste like ice water. The logistics director. Yes. The one you forced to resign. Yes. So he's already gone. He was gone, Lucien corrected. Until 3 weeks ago. Celeste's stomach dropped. What happened 3 weeks ago? He came back, Lucien said, started working as an informant for the feds, giving them information about my operations in exchange for immunity. Celeste felt sick. He's the one who sent the evidence to Patricia. Yes. And he's testifying against you. Yes. Celeste sat back, stunned. So if I give the police his name, his immunity deal gets revoked. He gets charged with murder, and the federal case against me falls apart because their star witness is a killer. Understanding crashed over her. That's why you told me. Yes. Because it saves you and destroys him. Celeste looked at Lucien. Really looked at him. You're not a good man, she said. I know. You've done terrible things. I know. And you're asking me to be complicit in more of them. No, Lucien said. I'm asking you to make a choice. Justice for Emily Garrison, or justice for Vincent Calloway's future victims. What victims? He's killed 3 people that we know of, Lucien said. Emily was just the only one anyone cared about. Celeste closed her eyes. How do you live with this? I don't, Lucien said quietly. I just survive it. The guard called time. Lucien stood. Celeste stood too. What are you going to do? He asked. I don't know. Lucien nodded. Whatever you choose, he said, I'll understand. He walked toward the door. Lucien. He stopped. I love you. I love you too, he said without turning around. Then he was gone. Celeste sat in the parking lot outside the detention center for an hour, staring at her phone. She could call Detective Carver right now, give him Vincent Calloway's name, watch the federal case collapse, save Lucien. Or she could do nothing, let Calloway testify, let Lucien go to prison, let justice, whatever that meant, take its course. She thought about Emily Garrison, 26 years old, murdered, thrown away like garbage. She thought about Patricia, a mother who would never get her daughter back. She thought about Vincent Calloway, a killer who had made a deal with the devil to save himself. She thought about Lucien, The man who had saved her and destroyed her in equal measure. She thought about herself, about who she had become, about whether any of this had been worth it. Finally, she made her decision. She called Detective Carver. He answered on the first ring. "Celeste?" "Vincent Calloway," she said. Silence. "What about him?" "He killed Emily Garrison." She heard him take a sharp breath. "You're sure?" "Yes." "How do you know?" "Lucien told me." "And you believe him?" "Yes." Another pause. "Do you understand what this means?" Detective Carver asked. "Yes." "Our case against Moretti falls apart." "I know. So why are you telling me?" Celeste closed her eyes. "Because Emily Garrison deserves justice more than Lucien Moretti deserves freedom." She heard Detective Carver exhale slowly. "Thank you," he said. Then he hung up. Celeste sat in the car, feeling empty. She had just saved Lucien, but it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like choosing between two kinds of evil and hoping she had picked the lesser one. She started the car and drove back to the safe house. When she got there, Patricia Garrison was sitting on the front steps. Celeste parked and got out slowly. Patricia stood. "I called the detective," Celeste said. Patricia's face crumpled. "He told me. I'm sorry it took so long." "Did Lucien tell you?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I asked him to." Patricia looked at her for a long moment. Then she stepped forward and pulled Celeste into a hug. Celeste stood frozen, unsure what to do. Patricia held her tight. "Thank you," she whispered. When she pulled back, tears streamed down both their faces. "It won't bring her back," Patricia said. "I know. But it's something." Celeste nodded. Patricia touched her cheek. "You're stronger than you think," she said. Then she walked away. Celeste watched her go, feeling something shift inside her chest. Not relief, not redemption, just a small crack in the wall she had built around herself. 6 months later, Celeste stood in a courtroom watching Vincent Calloway be sentenced to life in prison without parole. Lucien's case had been dismissed 2 weeks earlier due to lack of evidence. Graham Whitmore had pleaded guilty to attempted murder and received 8 years. Selena Vale had disappeared, last seen boarding a flight to Paris with Graham's money and no forwarding address. Celeste's immunity deal held. She walked out of court a free woman. No charges, no prison time. Just the weight of everything she had done pressing down on her shoulders like stones. Outside, Detective Carver was waiting. "Congratulations," he said. "For what?" "Surviving." Celeste looked at him. "Did I?" Detective Carver studied her face. "I don't know," he said honestly. "Did you?" Celeste didn't answer. She walked away. She didn't go back to the safe house. Instead, she drove to the coast, to the house overlooking the cliffs where she had stayed with Lucien years ago. It was empty now, seized by the government during the investigation and left abandoned. She broke in through a window and walked through the dusty rooms, remembering. The kitchen where they had cooked breakfast together. The porch where they had watched sunsets. The bedroom where she had fallen asleep in his arms, feeling safe for the first time in her life. She sat on the porch as the sun went down, watching waves crash against rocks below. Her phone buzzed. The burner. She pulled it out. One new message. "Are you okay?" "Lucien?" Celeste stared at the screen for a long time. Then she typed. "No." "Where are you?" "The house. I'll be there in 2 hours." Celeste set the phone down. She didn't know if she wanted him to come. Didn't know if seeing him would make things better or worse. But she waited anyway. 2 hours later, headlights swept across the driveway. Lucien got out of a car she didn't recognize. He walked up the steps slowly, hands in his pockets. He looked better, healthier, like the weeks since his release had given him time to breathe. He sat down beside her without asking. They watched the ocean in silence. Finally, Lucien spoke. "I'm leaving the country." Celeste's chest tightened. "When?" "Tomorrow." "Where?" "Somewhere without extradition, somewhere I can disappear." "For how long?" "Forever, probably." Celeste looked at him. "What about your empire?" "Gone," Lucien said. "Seized, dismantled. Everything I built is ash. I'm sorry. Don't be, Lucian said. I deserve it. Silence. Are you coming with me? He asked. Celeste's throat tightened. She had known the question was coming, and she had known her answer for weeks. No. Lucian nodded slowly. I understand. Do you? Yes. He turned to look at her. You need to rebuild yourself again. Without me. Without Graham. Without anyone who reminds you of the person you became. Tears streamed down Celeste's face. I don't know who I am anymore. Then figure it out, Lucian said gently. You have time now. What if I can't? You will. How do you know? Because you're the strongest person I've ever met. Celeste leaned against him. He put his arm around her. They sat like that until the sun disappeared completely and stars filled the sky. Finally, Lucian stood. I should go. Celeste stood too. They faced each other. I love you, Lucian said. I love you too. But we can't be together. No. Lucian kissed her forehead. Goodbye, Celeste. Goodbye, Lucien. He walked down the steps, got in the car, drove away. Celeste watched until the taillights disappeared. Then she sat back down on the porch. And for the first time in 4 years, she cried. Not from grief, not from rage, just from exhaustion, from the weight of everything she had carried finally being set down. She cried until there were no tears left. Then she sat in the silence, listening to waves crash below, and tried to remember what peace felt like. Botik. 1 year later, Celeste stood in a small gallery in a city she had never been to before, staring at a painting of a woman standing on a cliff overlooking the ocean. The woman's back was to the viewer. Her hair blew in the wind. She looked like she was about to jump or fly. Celeste had painted it 3 months ago in the tiny studio apartment she rented above a bookstore. She had started painting after leaving the coast, not because she was particularly good at it, but because she needed something to do with her hands that didn't involve destroying people. The gallery owner, a kind woman in her 50s named Margaret, had seen her work at a local art fair and offered her a spot in a group show. Celeste had agreed because saying no felt like hiding, and she was tired of hiding. Now she stood in the corner of the gallery, watching strangers look at her painting and wondering what they saw. A woman approached, young, maybe 30, dressed in jeans and a sweater. She stared at the painting for a long time. Then she turned to Celeste. Did you paint this? Yes. It's beautiful. Thank you. The woman looked back at the painting. What's it called? Celeste hesitated. She hadn't named it, hadn't thought she needed to, but now, standing here, she realized she did. The point of no return, she said. The woman smiled. Perfect. She bought the painting. Celeste watched her carry it out of the gallery, feeling something strange. Pride. Not the kind that came from destroying someone, just quiet satisfaction at creating something that mattered to someone else. Margaret walked over. You sold your first piece, she said. How does it feel? Celeste thought about it. Strange. Good strange or bad strange? I don't know yet. Margaret laughed. That's honest. She handed Celeste a glass of wine. To new beginnings, Margaret said. Celeste raised her glass. To new beginnings. They drank. That night, Celeste sat in her apartment above the bookstore, staring at a blank canvas. She didn't know what to paint next, didn't know what story she wanted to tell. Her phone buzzed. Not the burner. A regular phone she had bought 6 months ago when she finally accepted that Lucian wasn't coming back. A text from Patricia Garrison. I saw your painting in the gallery. It's beautiful. Emily would have loved it. Celeste's throat tightened. She and Patricia had stayed in touch over the past year. Not often. Just occasional messages, check-ins, small reminders that they were both still here, still surviving. Celeste typed back, Thank you. That means more than you know. Patricia responded immediately. How are you doing? Celeste looked around her small apartment, at the paintings leaning against the walls, at the books stacked on the floor, at the life she was slowly, carefully building from nothing. I'm okay, she typed. Getting there. Good. You deserve peace, so do you. I'm working on it." They said goodnight. Celeste set the phone down and looked back at the blank canvas. She picked up a brush, dipped it in paint, and started creating something new. 2 years after the shooting, Celeste received a letter with no return address. Inside was a single photograph. Lucien standing on a beach somewhere tropical, tanned, smiling, alive. On the back, he had written, "I'm okay. I hope you are too." Celeste stared at the photo for a long time. Then she tucked it into a drawer and went back to her painting. She was okay. Not healed, not whole, but okay. And for now, that was enough. Yeah. 5 years later, Celeste opened her own gallery. It was small, tucked into a quiet street in a city that didn't care about billionaires or empires or revenge. She filled it with paintings from artists nobody had heard of yet. People like her, people rebuilding themselves one brushstroke at a time. On opening night, Sarah Morrison showed up. The young analyst Celeste had helped years ago. She was older now, confident, working as a CFO at a startup.
"I heard you opened a gallery," Sarah said. "How did you find me?" "I've been keeping track," Sarah admitted. "After everything you did for me, I wanted to make sure you were okay." Celeste felt tears burning behind her eyes. "I'm okay," Sarah smiled. "Good." They talked for hours, about work, about life, about the wreckage they had both survived. When Sarah left, she hugged Celeste tight. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything."
Celeste watched her go, feeling something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. 10 years after the shooting, Celeste sat on a bench overlooking the ocean. The same ocean where Lucien's house had been. The house was gone now, torn down, rebuilt as condos. But the ocean remained, constant, indifferent, beautiful. She thought about Graham. He had been released from prison 3 years ago and disappeared completely. No interviews, no sightings, just gone. She didn't miss him, didn't hate him anymore either, just felt nothing, which was its own kind of peace. She thought about Lucien. She hadn't heard from him in 8 years, didn't know if he was alive or dead. Part of her hoped he had found peace. Part of her hoped he was still fighting. She thought about herself, about the woman she had been 20 years ago when she walked into that ballroom in a silver dress. That woman was dead, buried somewhere beneath layers of pain and rage and rebuilding. And Celeste was glad, because the woman she had become, scarred, complicated, unfinished, was someone she could finally look at in the mirror without flinching. Her phone rang. Margaret. "Hey," Celeste answered. "We just sold 3 of your paintings." "Which ones?" "The Cliff series." Celeste smiled. "Good. Want to celebrate?" "Rain check. I'm at the ocean." "Sounds perfect." They hung up. Celeste sat on the bench until the sun started setting, painting the sky in shades of red and gold, like fire, like endings, like beginnings. She stood, brushed sand off her jeans, and started walking back to her car. Somewhere behind her, waves crashed against rocks. Somewhere ahead, life waited. And for the first time since that night at the Ashbourne Grand, Celeste Whitmore walked toward it without looking back.